I am here with James Dwiggins, CEO of NextHome. And first off, I have to say congratulations. You guys are number one on out of everybody on our 16th annual Franchisee Satisfaction Award. So congratulations.
Thank you. On behalf of the whole team, we're very excited about it, for
Yeah,
sure.
you guys are working hard.
We are.
And so you guys first made our list back in 2019. First time out when you surveyed with us, you guys were on the list. And then last year, you knocked off some big real estate companies off the list, Keller Williams, Sotheby's. You beat them all out and
Yeah.
ranked best in category for real estate. And then this year, you're at the very top of everybody. So,
Yeah. It was a surprise. I have to be honest, when we hit number one for our category last year, the team was excited. Obviously, we were all excited. And then I sort of sunk in. I'm like, well, when you're already at that point, you got to do a damn good job to make sure you maintain that, or because you can only go down, you can't go up further. Except we managed to pull that off across all brands. So we're super
yeah.
excited about that. Yeah.
So now the bar set even higher.
I know. It's the pressure even more as well. So
Yeah. Well, and I think also too, what's really special about your story is, and I want to ask kind of how you guys are tackling it is you're also growing fast. And so I think what we tend to see is that it's easy to keep all your franchisees happy when you're small. It's harder to maintain that satisfaction as you grow. And then especially when you're growing fast. So how are you guys, what do you think the secret is to how you guys are managing that satisfaction as you grow the brand so quickly?
so it's funny. I get this question a lot because they're like, what's your secret sauce? And it's gonna sound cliche, but it really does start with people. Um, we learned this early on through lots of trial and error, not in this company, but previous companies that I've owned, that if your strategic advantage is like your tech or your marketing, which we do very well as a company, you're always jumping and then falling behind and jumping and falling behind, competing with everybody else. But the one thing that the whole business world can agree with is service and support have really struggled as businesses outsource, or they try to find ways to be cost effective with their support because it's expensive. People are expensive.
Yes.
But we kind of looked at that and said there's a real opportunity here for us to bring a level of support and caring back to business. And so we genuinely start with people, and we screen hard for characteristics of people that are part of our team that care about other people first. They're there to help people versus a paycheck. Paychecks are important, but they genuinely care. So we have 31 people on our corporate team who are 32 of the most amazing people I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And they will fall on the sword for every single member of our franchise. And when you focus on that culture part there, everything else falls in line. So, one of the reasons why when we first came out with this, we did very well and have excelled with it, is we've departmentalized things in such a fashion where we have a support team specifically for our franchise owners. We are literally on the phone with every one of our franchise owners on a monthly basis, checking in to figure out what they need, what challenges they have, where is their additional support needed. We call them franchise development managers. And every single one of those calls is recorded and notes are taken, and that's sent to the senior management team. And we as a senior team will go through and read all the notes from those calls to identify any sort of issues that are arising. We do the same thing with our agents. And it's all about making sure that experience with our customer is the best experience possible in every single facet. Another example from the people perspective, we friend request all of our members on Facebook. We know when people are sick. We know when they've had COVID. We know when a family member dies. We know when they're in the hospital. We send out handwritten cards. We send out flowers. We call them personally. Like, when you think from a mindset of this is a partnership and not just a business client, it all changes rapidly. And that specific component starts with the people at the top, then also with our franchisees and our agents in our company. And that's part of sort of how we've been able to make all this come together, is we're just really attentive to knowing what's happening in our members' lives and we don't treat it as a business relationship. We treat it as if they're part of our family. It's not, it's not a secret. It's not complex. It's just honestly care.
Yeah, that's amazing because I interview a lot of franchisees as well, and I was talking to one food franchisee that said, it's sometimes hard if the franchisor support team doesn't understand that they're here to support my business, because for them it is a paycheck. So if this business, if COVID impacts your brand so much that your business goes under, that corporate employee goes and finds another job for a paycheck, whereas your franchisee is left with literally nothing.
And it's funny, the comment you said would be the first thing if I was consulting for that person, I would say is it's not your business. It's actually everyone's business. There's a difference between, we and I. It's one of the things I push really hard on with our team is to talk collectively. When I talk on behalf of the company as the CEO, candidly, I am the least important person in the company. I'm not kidding when I say that. I am a very tiny cog in a very big wheel. When you change the mindset of that, every single person who is talking to your customer base is the team. It's their company just as much as is anybody else. When you start to shift that mindset, your team will realize that. So one of our biggest expenses in our company is our benefits program and our payroll. And we're fine with that. We want all of our team members to be taken care of. We're talking dental, vision, health insurance for them and their family. Like everything, 401k, life insurance policies, because when they realize this is a company that cares about them, guess what? They'll also care about the company, and the company is everybody included in it. So, one of the things I always share is when the people you bring on know that the team cares about their well-being, it changes the culture of your operation. It's also making important decisions quickly, where if you find somebody that doesn't fit that culture, I always say this, and it's not meant to be negative, but very slow to hire, but very quick to fire. Like,
Yes.
take a lot of time finding the right people. And if somebody isn't the right fit, get rid of that quickly, because it can create a toxic culture in your organization. But I would say that if the team doesn't care, then there's something wrong in what you're creating a culture at the top, because it does start with you. So
I love it. Yeah. And we always talk about, it seems so simple that all it takes to be a really successful franchise brand is to have good unit level economics, realistic expectations with the people coming in, and then treating everybody with respect and involving them with how you grow the business. But there's so many people that don't get that right, that I love it. And I'm wondering, how do you use the people part, or is that your differentiator when you are talking to candidates? How do you use that as the way that you guys are continuing to disrupt the real estate industry, or how you guys are doing business?
yeah, it's interesting. So I would say roughly 40% of our growth is referral, and that's a big number if you think about that, because franchising in general doesn't always have the best reputation. It depends upon the company, and people are like, and with us, it's a massive driver of our growth, because the members are so happy. They go out and talk about the experience with other people, within the market. Um, I think that I think that if I think that when your franchisee, I don't even we call them next homies, just to be clear. I even hate the word franchise. So we call them next homies. And when next homies get together, there's this very deep family culture within the company. And they love what we've created, because it's inclusive, but they're part of that. Like, it's not just corporate, like they're the ones driving the brand in a local market. The more we do with them, and the more that we involve them into the direction of the company, taking their ideas, creating new swag material that they came up with, the more they drive that growth and then expand the brand for us at the same time. So, everything you're going to hear me talk about comes back to very strategic decisions on who we bring in on the corporate team and the franchisee level as well. We're also screening to make sure that the person that's going to be carrying the flag also fits the same culture that we are. We receive roughly 80 to 90 inquiries to franchise with us monthly. We take 8 to 10 of those. And you have to be really cautious about that too. Like you need to make sure that person is of the same mindset that you are, because then they're going to recruit people to the company that share the same philosophies. I have this recruiting motto that we always teach. It's really interesting in real estate. Obviously, agents drive, the business. We tell our franchise owners, don't ever recruit somebody to your company that you wouldn't want to give up your Friday night to have dinner and drinks with. And it's funny because they look at you like, wait, what? We're like, no, literally, if you wouldn't want to give up your Friday night to have dinner and drinks with that person, don't bring them into your company. And it's interesting how that's kind of become a joke, but it's actually a philosophy that people follow. We find that it attracts like-minded people to the business. And then again, it flows all the way down the line to the buyer and seller. You talked about disruption. And I don't know if we're disrupting real estate as more we're doing what we should have been doing in the past 50 years, which is being very strategic about really what the home buyer and seller wants in a real estate experience. And you can create that experience if your agents, I'm going to go a step further now in our line, are also focused on what they want in an experience, and it's not about the paycheck. So again, it just the whole customer, the whole change in attitude from every line down the company will shift an organization. And then the beautiful part is it organically, kind of your point of your question, it organically starts to just grow itself. And like-minded people will seek out, your organization, which is why we've been able to grow as quickly as we have. So
That's great. We do the if you wouldn't sit on next to them on a plane for 5 hours.
perfect. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
especially
Just pretty
these
much everybody during COVID, by the way. So yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and let's talk about COVID. So a lot of businesses challenged very differently this year within franchising. Some are thriving where others are really struggling. So can you talk about some of the biggest challenges that you guys have had to overcome as an organization overall, or more specific to your franchise partners, how you guys help them address challenges that they were up against when all this kind of rolled out this year?
Yeah, so two things, and I'll blend the two questions together. When COVID hit, of course, we were all like, what is going to happen here? I will say that one of the great things about the leadership team that I have the pleasure of working with is we all kind of just dig in. So we took a step back and we're like, all right, here's contingency plans, but let's make that contingency plans. What we need to do is lead our team and our company through this. We immediately shifted instantly to remote workforce, obviously for health reasons. But secondarily, we decided to get very aggressive with training and education with our membership. So the chief strategy officer who I work very closely with and I, we're doing webinars every day for our franchise owners on what is the government's policy here? What are the new guidelines being enacted by Congress? What is the PPP program and how can we make sure that they can apply for it? What are some of the other federal programs? So we would literally dissect the information we get, host a webinar and show, here's where you can borrow money. Here's the application. Here's how to fill it out. Here's a local bank you can go through. We got really aggressive from that standpoint. Secondarily, we got aggressive with having our agents be a voice for calm and trying to help people understand what is happening, where is housing going to shift. Fortunately for us, housing became one of the best industries to be in. So, and I say that because we have been very fortunate as an industry. Everybody was like, if you were in a major city, nobody wanted to be in a major city anymore. So everyone was like, I'm getting out. Housing went through the roof. And so our industry's done very well from that perspective. The second question you were asking was, the first one was on how we shifted. What was the second one you had there?
Well, your franchisees, what were they facing, any challenges? Which you kind of covered with the navigating this new idea around how is the government, what's available to help them.
There's that, but then we also faced some challenges as an industry. So how do you sell a house that requires buyers to come through it during a pandemic that nobody understands, right? So how do you put a health and safety policy in place? That was probably the biggest challenge we went through, was how do I say this? Obviously, there tends to be kind of two groups in the country right now.
Yeah.
There's half the group that thinks COVID is real, and there's the other half that isn't concerned with it. And that's not meant to be political. It's just, it is what it is.
Right.
We're a national company. And so it was very difficult navigating putting a health and safety policy in place that was protecting the customer. We ended up doing it where we worked with council and we did enact a health and safety policy that all of our offices had to follow, which was controversial, which was, you must be wearing PPE, you must supply PPE, you need to make sure disclosures are signed and waivers are signed before people come through the property. That doesn't go over very well in certain parts of the US that want to just kind of be more hands off. But we also realized that there were some significant challenges from an insurance side. Your general liability policy and your E&O policies don't cover pandemics. So what happens if you bring a buyer through a property who has COVID, you didn't know it, the seller gets sick, a family member dies, and everyone gets sued? Like these were major things that we were going, whoa, because there's no policies to cover that, which means the franchisee's left holding the bag to defend themselves. And obviously in franchising, they're required to indemnify us. All of a sudden, it becomes a major issue. So there was a lot of navigating and working through, helping educate people that this isn't about perception of masks or not masks. This is about a smart business decision. But in the end, everybody rallied around the idea that it was about people. We need to protect our customer. We need to protect, our clients. We need to make sure we're not spreading a disease any more than it already is. And so again, the culture came through and we ended up making the right decisions as an organization. But that was a difficult thing to work through. I mean, it was, especially with certain parts of the country dealing with massive breakouts of COVID and then others not even having a single case. It was a weird process to go through.
Right.
So,
And I think too, I mean, the nature of a real estate agent is you want to meet the person where they are and you want to make sure they're comfortable, but there's the concern of alienating them by having the opposite opinion on masks, which has become such a big issue. So I think maybe there was some benefit of you guys putting that policy in place so they could go, it's not us, it's them.
totally. And then it's also, I mean, we even had the conversation with an agent that, we were requiring, waivers to be signed, which are fairly common in a lot of states. Like, have you had COVID? Have you been around somebody that's had COVID? Blah, blah, blah. And, when an agent was like, nobody wants to sign it, we were like, well, if they don't sign that, they're retaining the right to sue you. That conversation switched the, training on that very quickly, that you need them to sign this to make sure you're not, creating more liability. I don't know. The point is, like, it's just, we got really hard and heavy on education, and the team knew they could come to us to help navigate all of these challenges that no one in our company had ever faced or anyone's ever faced. So it was it was working through uncharted waters, but we came out the other side, and ironically, we've had one of our best years we've ever had. So
Well, and you're making those decisions quicker than you probably normally would. I mean, it all happened so fast. It
we
feels
also
like it's been.
it's been quick, but the thing was, we made the decisions. We knew there was going to be pushback, but we made the decisions from the right place, which was coming from a safety of people. And our members knew this wasn't a political play or anything. It wasn't about like trying to make people wear masks or not. It was literally, we need to protect the people that we serve. And so we got through a lot of those things by just approaching it from the right tone. So
Yeah. So you said something that kind of stuck out, because I am in complete agreement that there's a lot of bad players in franchising. Also, a lot of excellent franchise brands as well.
Great.
So this year, I think we're seeing more and more people that are looking at franchising as an opportunity because they have been put out of a job, or because they've decided that they want to have more flexibility in their schedule or more control over their life. So thinking about those people that might not be as familiar with franchising as you and I are, what's some advice that you would give to people that are looking at franchise ownership as a way forward, and ways to navigate what's a good brand versus not a good brand?
Yeah. Okay. So I boil that down to two things. I just had this conversation yesterday, actually. The very first thing is find something you're passionate about, right? So find an industry that you really think you can get behind and that gives you a sense of waking up every day and having purpose. You have to love what you do. A job shouldn't be something that you dread and you want to get home at 5 o'clock. A job should be something that there is something that you love about it, that you would want to spend 10, 12 hours away from your family in the beginning, to really be proud of. So research industries heavily on what you think you can get behind. And then this is the biggest thing I will tell you between what I've seen successful franchises do and not in partnerships is spend a lot of time researching the leadership team of that franchise. And I share that because I always say the analogy franchising is a lot more like a marriage. You know, you can get married very quickly, but divorcing is painful. And so, you need to be aligned with the leadership team. If their vision of where the company is going to go doesn't align with yours, or if their philosophy on service, or if you're talking to other franchisees within the franchise and they're not ranked high on franchise business review, or they don't even do it, which should be a red flag in my opinion, then those are things to really dig into. I've seen really successful partnerships because the franchisee and the leadership team align on most things. You're not going to get it perfectly, but 90% is what you're looking for, and then things work out really well. Spend some time talking to past customers of the franchise. This is one thing like I could share about us. We know that on the franchisees that are no longer with us, I guarantee you that if you called all of them, even though they're not with us, they'll have nothing but positive things to say about our company. And it's because it's not only how we treated them within the company, but also how we treated them even after they've left the company or were leaving the company for various reasons. It could be just life changes or our visions didn't align. But that's a big thing to figure out, because if you call the customers that are no longer there and they all have nothing positive to say, then it's usually a red flag about something that may not be right culturally within the organization. What I love about franchising, and this is the thing that I would encourage everyone to look at, is you're either going to reinvent something from scratch, which you can do, or you can cut out a lot of that and really figure out that, like, here's a business that's doing really well. They've figured out the processes. Instead of me having the headache of trying to deal with all of the learning curve, most of that is taken care of. And a good leadership team and a good franchise knows already how to take what they've created and duplicate that, as well as they've got a good operator, operating the franchise. Just because you franchise doesn't mean it's going to be a success. A lot of that comes down to your leadership ability, but the right franchise brand can do really well, which is why there are so many successful ones out there. And then, ones that were and aren't, or, never really succeeded. Most of the time that comes down to, in my opinion, a leadership problem on the franchise level.
That's
So
great. Some great advice there. I would also add to that, I love about franchising that when you have the good team that creates the model that's easy to duplicate, it's a level playing field. It doesn't matter
for
your
sure.
age, your gender, the color of your skin. It's here's our playbook and it's up to you to deliver on it. So that's a good point on that.
It's funny you mentioned that. I think that when I talk about aligning goals, it's not just business goals, but how do you align with somebody, even just on a moral or personal level? Like, one of the things we're incredibly proud of is the diversity in the ownership group of our franchise. We seek that out. We try to be as diverse as this country is, and that's not, and I share that because when you look at our senior management team, we are also diverse. And it's important to us that we are a team that is representative of our company. And I think that's important too, because just because you have a great franchise brand, sometimes you may align from the business perspective, but then you might find out later you don't align when it comes to social issues or things that are important to you.
Mhm.
Franchises have rules on some of this stuff. Sometimes they don't want you going out and taking a position on social issues. I remember this year, with obviously a lot of the things that have come up, with George Floyd and others, it was amazing when we sat down and talked about how we wanted to respond to that. And so many companies just do a boilerplate, they just write a boilerplate thing from council and they put it out there and it's supposed to be representative of the whole company. We took a different approach. We said, you know what? Look, our corporate team is diverse in both opinion, gender, ethnicity, etc. We said every single one of them can write their entire take on it. And we posted a blog post on behalf of our entire corporate team with lots of varying opinions as representative of who we were. And we found that that was a breath of fresh air for our franchisees. They were like, you're courageous. They may have not agreed with everything, but the fact that we did, everyone respected the fact that we didn't take the easy route. We actually addressed the issues that we're facing as a country. I don't know. I personally think that's something that a lot of people feel is
We
important to
need,
them.
we need
And
more. We need more of that for sure.
those things are difficult because the easy route is to say nothing. The
Mhm.
hard route is to take a position. And again, I feel like as a company, when you are willing to do that, you show more character and you'll actually attract people that want to be part of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think we have an opportunity as the franchise industry to do more of that
for sure.
and have these conversations. So that's excellent. I love it. So you said when you're talking to candidates, it's important for them to understand the leadership's uh, vision for the future. So let's talk about, where do you see Next Home being in the next 10 years? What's your plan? What does real estate look like in the next 10 years?
Well, okay. So for us, I'll start there and I'll end on the real estate in the next 10 years. We all, so we're very fortunate in that we're privately held. And you know, we make the decisions based upon what we think is most important for the company. And that's not the almighty dollar, is not the first decision. So we've never sought out to be the biggest company. We're really trying to create a real estate experience where the buyer and seller gets the professionalism, the branding, the advertising, and the experience that they deserve in a real estate transaction. It is the most complicated and strenuous thing most Americans will go through in their life, is to buy or sell a property. It's the single largest asset that most Americans own. And there's a lot of challenges with our business. There's way too many agents that do not belong in the industry selling real estate. Um, we continue to raise that bar by raising standards in our company. In real estate franchising, it's kind of a free for all. It's less business in a box and like, here's the brand and go do what you want. With us, it's far more controlled. We require minimum standards. We have minimum standards for signage and material and advertising. And so we're attracting the right agents to grow this company. So we're right now, we'll end the year around 490 locations. We've done that in just under 6 years, which obviously is a great number for us.
Yes.
Uh, we have around 4,200 agents across the United States. And I think in the next 5 years, I can't project 10 because I don't even know what we're going to be in a year at this point, but our goal is to be somewhere around 1,000 locations across the US, really be in every market in the United States. Filling out in markets where we can continue to grow a little bit more. I project around 10,000 agents, but more importantly, probably being one of the top 20 companies in the United States. And we're certainly on track for that now. We're already in the top 40. And then, we're starting our expansion internationally next year. So we're getting ready to move into Canada as long as the borders are open. So we're definitely starting to put our feet in the water from international expansion. We're looking at China, Mexico, and some other countries where a lot of foreign investments coming into the United States. That's kind of a target for us. And just keep doing what we're doing. We've got a great recipe. We're building out a really great brand. We're building out a really great tech stack. Certainly our culture is one of our winning things, and we're going to continue to mold that. As far as real estate goes, it's going to be interesting to watch where it is. I think that you're going to see 2021 continue to be a great year for real estate. There's still a lot of movement that's going to occur just because of COVID. A lot of people are hunkered down and they're going to want to move once things start opening up. I also think politically, you'll see a lot of movement for people aligning with states where I think that maybe they want to live in states that are more aligned with their viewpoints. I think you'll see a lot of cross-state movement that's going to occur. I think 22, 23 could be tough. There's certainly an undercurrent of foreclosures that are on the way from people who unfortunately lost their jobs and are just barely making it by. I think you're going to see a significant uptick in that in 22, 23. So prices may level off, be a little bit more of a equal buyer seller market instead of it just being, no inventory and prices skyrocketing. Interest rates are certainly going to go up at some point. They have to. And we have a hell of a lot of problems to figure out in this country politically. I mean, this is more divisive than we probably have ever seen in the history of this country. we definitely need to find some calm, and then the economy will sort itself out. And we all know we're due for a market correction. The stock market can't keep flying like this. Overall, though, here's the fundamentals of real estate. We're 4 million units short of housing in this country. We went into it with 4 million units short in April. We came out of it with 30%, 20 to 30% less inventory per market. So if you just look at fundamentals of supply and demand economics, I think real estate is going to continue to be a great investment. There'll certainly be some slowdown in appreciation rates, but we have a housing shortage in this country, period. Like, we're not developing enough housing based upon population growth of just household formation plus immigration into the country. So from an industry perspective, it's going to grow. I will also share, I think you'll see a lot of new business models pop up over the next 5 to 10 years. I think that long term, you'll see about 500,000 realtors left in the business, a more professional industry, and a lot more transparency into the transaction, a lot more involvement by the customer in the process. But I don't see real estate agents going away. This is a really complex thing that we go through. When I sold my condo in San Francisco a few years ago, the disclosure package was 232 pages. I mean, you're not going to automate that. So like there's a lot of things that are going to shift in our business, but fundamentally people want to have an expert help them through a very sophisticated financial transaction. And I think our industry will move, but will still be the focal point of the transaction will be through a real estate agent in the long term. So
Got it. Good. I want to go back. This is kind of a side note, but you had said you spend time on the phone with your members every month.
yeah.
And then you said also your agents. Do you have
Yes.
people from corporate that are talking to agents directly?
We do. Yeah. So we have two teams. We call franchise development managers, which solely work with the franchisees. Then we have a member services team. We made a decision. This was actually another thing that we did really well. So like most franchises, you build out some of your own tech and then you partner with companies on others. And in real estate, that's very common. So one of the problems with building a tech stack that's not all proprietary is you're dealing with other companies' customer service, which is honestly a reflection of you. So for example, like we work with DocuSign, everybody knows who they are as one of our partners. And the way we structured support was we decided that we were going to remove all support from the product companies and take all that in-house. So our member services team only works with the agents in our company. And when an agent has a problem with any product or service that we provide, they don't call the vendor, they call the corporate team. So we've been able to create a relationship with our agents where literally an agent will have a favorite person in member services they call, and we will help them with every single product and service that we both build and support, as well as who we partner with. That is also one of the reasons why our service level is where it is because we are controlling that customer experience, even with our partners, to make sure they're not being handed off and then it falls apart. It's more expensive to do it that way, but for us, it's the right way to do it because, the agents develop this relationship with the corporate team. I know that there's a lot of controversy with that. It's like corporate's like, I only want to work with the franchisee. And I get the legal challenges of that. But for us, we also know that in order for this culture to work, the agent is also technically our customer. And so we work with the franchisee and their agents. And that's been a massive success for us. We know, just with the survey results, but we know that if we did the same survey of the agents, we would probably end up in the same spot because, they have a one-on-one relationship with the corporate team, not just the franchise owner. So
Yeah, and that's why it kind of stood out to me because I do think, it used to be there was a definite line that the franchisor didn't cross to that employee directly, and the franchisee was very protective of that. And I think that's relaxed a little bit with how the NLRB is it's looking different now. But
yeah,
I know that the major challenge for business owners inside franchising and out is finding and retaining fantastic employees. And so this seems like by delivering a better experience for that agent, you're really kind of helping with that retention piece, that satisfaction, that engagement piece. So I think that there's some definite considerations for brands to think about in don't shut down that idea of crossing that line, but really what would be the benefit to you, to your franchisee, and to the employer, to the end user of looking at that relationship differently.
Correct. Now, I would caution one thing. Our industry is different in that most agents, 95% of them are independent contractors. So they're not employees of our franchisees. So we have a little bit more wiggle room there to deal with that employer-employee relationship. Um, but to your comment that you made, we know that if we can create a relationship with them, and this is the fundamental point I wanted to make, they don't question the franchise fees because the agent is paying us indirectly through the franchisee, the broker, to us. If the agent understands what we provide, then the fees that we charge are no longer in question. So we're able to control that experience more by doing that. There is risk still, even though they're independent contractors, but that risk level is obviously quite a bit less. So but I would encourage anyone, no matter what the business model is, to figure out, who really is involved in the process of, paying you, and then figuring out a way to create that experience that you can control as much as possible down that line. So,
Love it. That's good. Okay. I really appreciate your time. Do you think
of
we
course.
missed anything? Is there anything else you want to share about Next Home or about franchising before we sign off here?
No, just my closing comment would be, first of all, if anybody's not using you guys, to please do. It's funny. I'll make this one closing comment. We get the reviews back, and what's ironic, this is how passionate our team is. We host a meeting, and we sit down with all department heads, and we sit down with senior team well, we used to do it in a conference room, now it's via Zoom, but we'll go through those results. And it's funny, I always have to tell the team, they skip over the 98% of the positive stuff and they go straight to the 2% of the complaints. And I'm like, guys, first of all, celebrate the 98% that said we do an amazing job, but they don't care about that. They go right to the 2%. But what my comment would be is this, is actually sit down and don't be afraid to read the criticism. Look at the criticism and take it constructively and go, okay, like this is a person who's willing to be honest with us and tell us what it is that they felt was off. And in a way, honestly, celebrate the 98% and then actually throw that out and then sit down and go, this 2% we need to fix. Our goal is to figure out how to solve all these issues in the next 12 months. And all department heads and senior team is aligned on that. So many companies are afraid to hear that criticism. And they're just like, yeah, whatever. They just discount it. For us, we just hone in on that and go, all right, that's our goal, is to fix that 2%. And that's been able to, I believe, help us get better. And hopefully retain the spot that we've earned, and more importantly, make our customer happy. So
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and it's interesting because that is what I tell people is take time to celebrate. But I will tell you, all the top companies that have the top scores, that's what I hear from every team is
yeah,
they're fixated. And it's better to be part of that conversation. It's better to hear
totally.
what they think of you because they're telling people and better to be part of that than to keep your head in the sand. So I love hearing that. I should do a survey of that. Do you guys focus on the 2% of negative? But it's definitely there for those top scoring people, which is why they're at the top.
Every single company should be doing this. And I'm not plugging it for you guys. I'm talking just in general. Like, you should be surveying your customers, getting that feedback, and focusing on the things that you can do better in your company. And all the rest of it will figure itself out.
Yes,
So,
I
yeah.
totally agree. Congratulations to you and your
Thank
team.
you.
You guys are really, really just top notch, best in class. And we're happy to share some of these ideas with others so that they'll hopefully follow suit. They might be coming after you for that #1 spot next year.
Great. That makes the whole industry better. I look forward to it.
Thank
So
you so much, James. Have a
awesome.
great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.